with our um, inclusion. But before we begin, and before I pass you on to Maddie, we are going to have our vision, our commitment, our background, our purpose and action. And then our session today will be moderated by Dr. Dana Watts. And then thereafter, there's going to be a quick breakout session and questions at the end of our meeting today. We have an hour together, so we would like to make use of our time in a deep and meaningful way with three of our panelists today. So a warm welcome to everyone. Maddie, on to you.
Thanks so much, Joel. Welcome, everyone. We thought we'd start with this as a prompt for us all. We're working on intentionally developing and sustaining pathways to leadership. And we've been doing that since our inception as a diversity collaborative. What comes to mind for you today when you think about our focus? And we're just going to ask you to type anything you'd like to in the chat. Hope you're reading them all as they're trickling in. We've got a lot of them, a sense of belonging, maintaining our commitments. We have equity. We have the mention of parents and how to work with them. Lots of different topics coming in. Also, how do we sustain this during times that are very volatile? How do we find our common voice and our strength to do the good work? Sense of belonging, a sense of inclusion, a sense of safety. Thank you all for dropping things into the chat. Access, career paths, and opportunities. Great. Thanks for that warm up exercise. We have guiding statements, and you can go to the Diversity Collaborative and read through them, and we encourage you to do that. But what I wanted to share on is just our commitment and our vision. The commitment here that I'm going to focus on today is that middle line, which we acknowledge that anyone within a school can demonstrate leadership by serving as an agent of change. So, being here today, learning more from our host Ignite speakers, we learn as we go, we share the journey together, and we believe all of us can make a difference. But again, I wanted to note that we're looking to see a change in the top leadership of our schools so that there can be better representation, access, and equitable leaders and representation. So I'm glad that you're here today, and we're going to learn a lot from our speakers that have joined with us.
And everyone, in case you are unaware, on our ISS website, we have a list of resources that are available to you. So I threw the link in the chat. We'd love to have you join us. Obviously, you're here today. We appreciate it and continue with our work. On the next slide, you can see where we have a list of where all our meetings are. Or when they're going to be taking place. So the next one will be in May. And then we always record all of everything so they're available to watch because we know time zones don't work for everyone. And you can download the presentation and share it with your staff. Additionally, you can also find our diversity collaborative norms, which we use also in all of our courses that we run with ISS EDU Learn. And we have some results from some of the different data that we've collected over time that you can find and use in different research that you're doing and reports and things of that nature that you're using at your schools. And today it gives me so much excitement to present to be one of the moderators on this panel. Really looking at how do we intentionally develop and sustain leadership pathways for our host and home country educators is so imperative and important. We all know for too long our our host country and home country educators have been marginalized. They have not been given the same opportunities for growth within their career. They've not been given the same opportunities for professional learning in our schools, and our schools are starting to open up those pipelines. And we have three amazing people here today joining us who have done this work within their schools. They've risen and continue to shine and lead within our schools. And we are here to ask and learn so that we can continue to open up those pipelines and to help all of our host and home country educators within our schools flourish. I'm going to take over the screen in a moment here, and I'm going to share my deck. Give me 1 second. All right, what I'd like to do is I'm getting my screen set. And I'm going to give each one of our presenters a moment to share. And so, can you see that okay? Everything good, Joel? Or are you getting the black screen? It's good? Okay, good. All right, so what I'd like to do is just to get us started is to have each one of our wonderful people on our panelists today, introduce themselves. So my Paula, will you please start and give them a quick, like 2-3 minute background on you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dana. My internet connection is terrible, so if I'm cutting, I apologize. Do type in the comments and let me know. My name is Maipelo Ngesan, and I am the whole school vice principal at the International Community School of Abidjan in the Ivory Coast. This is year 15 for me at ICSA. And prior to K-12 education, I was a research scientist. So I joined K-12 education from that background. And even though this topic is host nation, I'm actually a locally hired educator here in Cote d'Ivoire. I'm originally from Botswana, but my experiences are 100% similar to my host nation colleagues. So I feel like I am able to speak on to the experience and that I also experience. I'm very excited to be with you and to share and to learn from everybody, my fellow panelists, and also the audience as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome. And Walter, would you like to go next?
Yes, thank you, Dana, and hello, everybody. Good evening from Yokohama, Japan. It's 10 p.m. over here. Time difference is something that we all used to. Thank you for that introduction, and you have seen in terms of what we're bringing to the table. We are fortunate, or in my case, I've been fortunate to uh, have some administrators that had that idea many years ago, and I was able to be invited to as the business manager of the American School in La Paz back in 2005. Amazing experience, and I was there for 9 years, a member of the administrative and senior leadership team in La Paz. And after 9 years working over there, I moved to Saudi Arabia. I got to meet Maddie as well in Saudi Arabia with the NISA team, and worked over there for 9 years as well. And currently working in Yokohama International School since 2023. A lot of challenges and a lot of experience going throughout these years, and happy to share those experiences from early days and early years in terms of how were the challenges back in Bolivia, and how that helped to reach where we are right now.
Fantastic. Thank you, Walter, and thank you for joining us. And Fatma, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Dana. Hello, everybody, wherever you are. So my name is Fatma. I have a bit of an particular background because my background is more in medicine and public health before the international education. And I worked in, I think what really got me very passionate about education when I started working with child labor in the field of child labor and also children affected by armed conflict. So education in emergency and war. And that's kind of where I realized the power of education and the importance for children and communities and how to design things when, based on what is needed. So I loved when somebody wrote the word sustainability. So when I found myself in the world of education, the whole concept for me was how do we design a system or a program that ensures that sustainability and local capacity building is one of the most important aspects of that. So I started working at ARIS 15 years ago, and we had three focuses: personalized learning, well-being, and 15 years ago, and local capacity development for staff here. So it's something that I'm very passionate about, and I can't wait to share more about that.
We're thrilled to have all three of you here today. And this is a topic that I'm super passionate about. It was a huge part of my dissertation and my research on how do we empower all people within our schools. So I'm thrilled to have all three of you here today. If you're just joining us, just so you know for the format, so I'll have a question. Each one of our panelists gave me kind of a heads up on the questions that they most wanted to address. We'll go through a handful of questions, and each person will take the question that resonated the most with them that they wanted to speak about. But then we'll open it up to Q&A at the end, so you can ask questions as well. And then Jennifer will wrap us all up and bring us back at the end of our time together today. All right. So our first question, Okay, our first question is about pathways. And both Mypello and Walter both indicated that they would like to talk about this question. But Mypello, I'm going to ask you to go first. Can you share a little bit about your own leadership journey and how your identity as a host or home country educator has shaped the opportunities, challenges, or assumptions that you encountered along the way?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dana. So as I mentioned when I was introducing myself, I joined K-12 education from a research science background. Initially, that's what I thought I would do with my career. And when I finished my graduate studies and a bit of work in the US, my husband and I decided we wanted to move back to Africa. He's from Cote d'Ivoire. So this is when we moved to Cote d'Ivoire. And there was no opportunities for somebody in a French-speaking country who didn't speak French. So the only opportunity was in the international school. And when I came just looking for opportunity, what I was initially offered was a learning assistant position. And when I was asking about that, okay, why am I being asked that? And I felt I was a bit overqualified for that role. I was informed that it was because I wasn't certified as a teacher. I'm like, okay. But my observation was that other colleagues were being offered the opportunity despite not having certification. And the main thing about that, those colleagues didn't look like me. They were from Western backgrounds. So that was like, okay. So with the way I'm looking, there are certain assumptions about the role that is suitable for me. And maybe some assumptions about my competency level, which to me was a bit problematic. Now, the good thing is that the person that I encountered ended up leaving, and the next director didn't see those barriers. So for them, as a scientist, published scientist with graduate teaching experience, I was actually an asset that would bring and add value to the school. So they gave me a chance to be a full-time teacher at the school. And now this didn't stop here. So for the 15 years that I've been at the school, I've grown in different leadership positions. And I've observed that there is a difference. So there is some difference in mentalities of the leaders that I've interacted with. So the one group of leader is the group that automatically equates an overseas hired teacher with competence. So for them, you are overseas hired, so automatically that comes with opportunities for leadership. And the trend is that locally hired teachers tend to be overlooked for opportunities. But what I'm also noticing is that the overseas hired colleagues, they usually come for very short terms and they are relying on the locally hired teachers to support them in exercising those leadership roles that the locally hired teachers have been skipped for. And then another trend that I observed is that there's also the use of leadership positions as a leverage to attract overseas hired teachers. So it sounds like, okay, join our school, you will have an opportunity for leadership, but that leverage is not offered to locally hired teachers. So the assumption is you are here, you are stuck with us, so you don't need anything to motivate you to stay on with us. But that's not everybody. I mean, I've had leaders who saw locally hired teachers as an asset who bring another perspective that is actually adding value to school. And with those leaders, there was no question in my competence. So I felt I was being treated very fairly. This is what the school needs. You have the profile that meets what the school needs, and we are going to support you in exercising this role. Now, with leaders that are in the first case where there is some doubts about competence because of being a locally hired teacher, working in that context creates some form of pressure. So you feel like you need to really go above and beyond to prove yourself that you deserve to be in the position where you are, especially when they come in when you're already in that position. So you need to, you are questioned, your expertise is questioned, your being in that role is questioned, and you just need to go above and beyond. So that has been my challenge, and that has been my experience, and that has been some of the challenges and opportunities that I've encountered.
I'm you just nailed it, right? Like the lack of opportunities, the assumptions of competency levels being overlooked, the need to prove yourself, to go above and beyond. I mean, it's just insane that inequity, and I'm so sorry. And we'll continue to talk about ways that we might be able to open up those pipelines. Walter, would you like to go next?
Yeah, thank you so much. With the experience that my fellow mentions, in my case, I had a background of working as a CPA. At that time, I was already working for PricewaterhouseCoopers. Been working for almost 4 years at that time, uh, working in the advisory department, which helps me to be a consultant and go into different types of industries and clients, etc. The American school had a contract with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I was the consultant assigned, helping them to develop, to implement new procedures, accounting and procurement, etc. One day, the head of school, the superintendent, calls me to his office and says, I have two news. One, we will terminate the contract with PricewaterhouseCoopers. And the second news is that I would like to offer you the business office position instead. Uh, Big decision at that time, and especially one important thing, I did not have any uh, background in English, any English proficiency, and he says, uh, our priorities at this moment are at highest stake in terms of our procedures and our accounting and our finances, but you need to work on your English immediately. So the language was one of the first challenge I had at that time. He put his trust in what I was able to do, and I, as my fellow said, needed to work hard to show them how I can be valuable for the institution. However, at that time, the trust and the confidence from his leadership helped me to move forward in it. Uh, Other important things in terms of challenges was integrate into a community in which necessarily even being Bolivian and connecting to a community in the school, I knew I didn't belong. There are different social distributions in the same city and in the same country. So coming from a different place in the same city doesn't mean that I belong because I'm Bolivian. And something I found interesting that I was able to connect easier with foreign with expats, with the foreign community, rather than with the Bolivians. Bolivians had um, also certain prejudice that against other Bolivians, and knowing that sometimes you are here, you are higher in the school. However, sometimes you may not belong here. So those are other challenges that you can encounter within the same community. And then in other important things, while I have a good expertise about regulations in Bolivia and how to run the business, etc., in terms of procedures, etc., I did not have at that time what the school was dealing in the international context. So it was for me something important to learn that while from my vision and what I see in books, etc., it used to show something hmm, with financial stability and everything. I did not know at that time how the school was struggling in terms of being attractive uh, uh, for recruiting international teachers coming to Bolivia. So for me, it was an eye-opening to learn that while within Bolivia, the Bolivian context, the school was uh, very reputable and somehow financially stable. Uh, in the international context, uh, was struggling in terms of having and being attractive, bringing international teachers to the country. So it was a lot of learning experience and learning how to navigate the internal issues, and at the same time discovering the international context and how the school was actually not only a school in the Bolivian context, but as well in the South America and in the American context as well.
I think you bring up so many great points about the challenges that you had, but then also I think the challenges of international schools have in the fact that like I think our schools are, it's important for our schools to also learn the host country language, right? And instead of the expectation of you learning English, like also like, you know, that people within the school community learning the host country language and the need to also understand the host country culture, you know, instead of also expecting our host country teachers to learn the international context, also we need to put that back on our schools to make sure that they're also learning it as well and understanding the amazing places that we are quite fortunate to live in when we are a guest in another country. So thank you so much, Walter. I want to move on to our next question. Oh, keeps going the wrong way on leadership. Walter, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Are you the next one? Yeah. Okay. I guess so. On leadership. Okay. So what systems, structures, or practices have you seen in your own school or context that help create or make leadership pathways more visible and attainable for host or home country educators?
Yeah, and I wanted to share here another experience. A couple of years later, within, uh, already working for ACS in La Paz, um, we had a change in terms of the government in Bolivia and political changes, and the U.S. ambassador was named and persona non grata in PGIT, and immediately the next semester, 60 students out of 450 were flying out of Bolivia. So we had a big issue in terms of uh, balancing a budget in the middle of the year. In December, everything was fine. And in January, we had 60 students, less 20% of the enrollment out. At that time, and while we're balancing and working into, all these uh, immediate issues, the budgets are coming, etc. And I received the invitation for um, professional development and a conference of business managers in South America going to Miami. We received this message, and my head of school comes and looks at this and says, "Are you planning to go?" And I say, "We're dealing with so much. I'm the first one who does not recommend uh, myself going to this conference. We need to save every single cent and every single penny, keeping all of this. And as your financial advisor, I advise against this." And he said something that I always remember. He says, "Our crisis is the main reason I have to send you to this conference. When you come back, you can bring new, fresh ideas. You have networking, and you will be in better position to support and bring new ideas to the table to deal with this crisis." And even though against my advice and appreciating a lot his confidence and investment, we went to these conferences, and it's invaluable always in terms of creating a professional development and professional opportunities for our local uh, 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 our local hires, and for them to understand the not only the local context but the international context, and also return it to your country and see how best practices and new industries are happening, and new those fresh eyes and new ideas being implemented is just something that we must continue to do it. And from then, I've been always an advocate and trying to support my teams in terms of any type of workshop and development, in terms of anything related to professional uh, development that will bring back to our offices, and they will bring back to our teams. And that investment is something invaluable, and that has been creating a really important way to move forward in learning all procedures, etc.
Oh, Walter, that's fantastic. It's so important for us to be able to open up opportunities and those systems and structures in our school of allowing and providing equal opportunity for professional development and growth is so essential to our schools. Thank you so much.
May I
Our
speak
next
one more
question.
thing?
Oh, go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
I, there was another important thing that I have seen that works pretty well, not only in Bolivia, it has worked also in Saudi Arabia, and I see that now working in Japan, and is a way to find networking internally in the city, in the country, and internationally. Sometimes we see schools as competitors. We are probably um, seeing if we're in the same city, maybe we are fighting for the same families entering the school. When we are in the same country, we probably are fighting for the same teachers coming to the country and in the regions as well. While that competition happens in that part, there are many other issues that we all share. We all have the same uh, problems and crises, and we are always, if we're in the same country, we are in the same regulations, etc. So I have something I found valuable and really helpful for teams in general is collaboration, and find ourselves the network in terms of how we can people can share their experiences, and I can share with them as well. We are not here to reinvent the wheel, and sometimes many of processes and things that we have created can help other schools, and as well their ideas can help and enrich our procedures as well. So something I have learned in terms of uh, structures or practices, I have seen collaboration, professional collaboration among teams and among schools helps a lot to develop and to uh, continue in this pathway.
I love that. And the need for professional collaboration is just so essential so that we work together as one community. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Fatma, and we're going to talk a little bit about institutional memory, right? So, in your role, how have you seen institutional memory and cultural fluency function as a leadership asset? And how can schools better recognize and leverage that expertise?
The thing is, it's very interesting. At schools, we sit every 5 years, we do this whole exercise of strategic planning and stuff like that. But we always forget that culture eats strategy for breakfast, basically. If you don't have a clear structure, if you don't have a clear system and understanding of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what's the purpose of what you're doing. I guess for me, being here for 15 years and developing these systems that were mentioned about the pathways that we have here, it's basically committing to a promise we've given parents. We are providing you that kind of quality education. Our teachers are going to have that kind of skills. And these are learning principles. And this is our definition for learning. And when you come into our campus, that's what you're going to do. And that's what you're going to see, hear, feel, experience. And to do that, it takes time. Nobody can do that in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. For me, I've been here for 15 years. It's only 3 years back that a mom who's been with me and like so much involved in a lot of things, like she was a PSA, the Parent School Association president. And 3 years back, she came to me to say, you know what, Fatma, for the first time now, I actually don't care which teacher my kids end up with, because I feel you know what you're doing, you all understand, you all have the same skills. And it's great to see that. So I don't need to come and tell you, please, can you have my kid with this teacher? This teacher seems to be way better. So, and that takes time to build, and it cannot happen. And the great thing about people who work with you for many years, somebody like my pillow, is because with the 15 years of experience she has, she's going to tell you everything about the kids and their families and how they learn and what, the profiling, all of that. And I guess this is kind of schools who do have a high turnover. You always need to ask yourself what you're in for. Are you in for the high turnover international experience? Because different schools have different purposes and why they exist. We have a very specialized purpose, which is personalized learning, that we are developing personalized pathway for every one of our students. And that means knowing the kids in depth. Today, interestingly, I had a meeting. I do yearly meetings with everybody. I have 248 staff. By the end of the year, I need to make sure I meet with everybody. Today was the teacher assistant, the TA's meeting. And the stuff they told me about how much they know the kids and how they when they hand over, they tell the other TAs about what the kids are doing. Interestingly enough, our TAs are those who know the kids and parents more in depth than anybody else, basically. So, and some of them have been with me for 10 years. Some of them have moved to become teachers. So we have these clear pathways. So as a school, we've been very clear about what we're doing, how we're doing it, what kind of skills our teachers going to have, and then we have these pathways. Today, I met for the first time an attendant who was responsible for the hygiene and cleanliness of the corridor in the classroom, who's now become a TA. Because 9 years ago, she started, and today she told me Iris gave her dream, made her dream come true, and now she's in education because we gave her the opportunity to go for the education, further education, and now she's TA. She's looking forward to becoming a teacher and that leadership pathway. So for us, it's very important to have these pathways clear. So we have a clear pathway for a teacher assistant to become what we call an associate teacher, which is a teacher in training. And from there to become, so we have, after you become a full facilitator, what we call here, and teacher, we have 4 different pathways. You can go into leadership, you can go into research and development, and these are more those who become instructional coaches. So I have now 4 Ghanaian instructional coaches who became concept-based inquiry blended learning, and we're developing our literacy and numeracy coaches. And these were teachers who started with me more than 10 years ago. Then we have also our innovative and pathway for, like, I have those who are specializing in blended learning, AI, and we have our teacher expertise pathway. And these are teachers that don't want to go into leadership, but they've become expert teachers, and they can mentor young teachers also that are just beginning, or mentor young teacher assistants that want to go into that pathway of becoming a teacher themselves. So this makes it so important for the community and the school to have so much in-depth knowledge of what we're doing, how we're doing it, who we're doing it for, and in the end, become successful with every one of our students, honestly, and succeed in achieving our mission and vision, basically. So for us, this has been, for me, 15 years. I've understood that it takes at least 12, 13 years to build a culture, to build a system. And it cannot happen when you have such a high turnover of teachers. And I feel that. And by the way, also when we were hit with COVID, the country closed Friday, Monday, we were online. I had all my teachers. And what happened is that a lot of kids left the other school to come to our school because we were in place, we were doing the work. My team was trained. We were doing 1 month before already online teaching, putting the kids in, and none of my teachers left because they're all here. So I guess there's so much power that comes in being able to build a common understanding of why we exist and what we're trying to do. And it can only happen when you're working with people for a very long time.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love the idea of, okay, meeting with each person. That's a huge time commitment, but each person has seen, you get to hear about their hopes and what they want to do and how they want to grow. And establishing that in a community is so essential. Oh my gosh, fantastic.
But no, just to tell you, it's not only about them. Like the suggestion they gave me today is going to make me more successful. Like one thing, like we moved our infirmary somewhere else, and they said like it's such a big hassle to get the kids, the primary kids, they use the word the primary teacher assistant. Can we have a nurse inside the primary building? So just after the meeting, I went and like identified a place and I'm going to put a nurse there. And that came from a TA. It didn't come from teachers. It didn't come from parents. It didn't come from my primary leadership. It came from my teacher assistant. So honestly, there's so much power. Everybody has so much input and great ideas to give you, starting from everybody in the school, not only your leadership.
Fantastic. For our next question, we want to talk a little bit more about developing talent. So, Mypella, based on your experience, what is one practical step that you've taken to better support leadership development for host and home country educators?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dana. I mean, before I go into some practical experience, I'll just speak about some general observation. So one of the observations I've made about some of the ways that schools try to support host country educators in gaining that leadership experience is through mentorship. And the mentorship is a great thing, but a lot of locally hired teachers end up being over-mentored, but not being given opportunities to actually show that they are capable of leading. So there's a big problem of just mentorship without support. And I've been doing a lot of advocacy, just advocating for can we move beyond mentorship and can we actually give people opportunity to show what they're capable of. And some of the things that I've done in my context, as for example, as service learning coordinator, I advocated for one of the learning assistants who's from the country, who knows the country, who has all the connections, understands the culture, to be the one to serve as the co-coordinator instead of choosing somebody who doesn't understand the context, doesn't understand the culture, and will only maybe be here for 1 or 2 years and then move on. And then we start the cycle from again, from scratch. So I'm really grateful that with the current leadership that we have, that was something that was very embraced without any resistance, without any problem at all. And so this is a lot of what really I'm doing. And one of the things that I've been thinking about as well, Fatima mentioned a clear pathway that her school has. So just challenging my school context to actually have a clear pathway for the teachers, for everybody. I mean, having a clear career pathway is part of well-being as well. So if you know that, okay, I'm in this place, I am going to grow, I'm going to go further as a career, that's good for well-being. So just sitting down with the locally hired staff and just looking at their goals, their aspirations, where do they want to go, coming up with very concrete steps to support them, and then finding a way to develop some models. So for example, if there's an opportunity to be a department chair, for example, the person doesn't need to be in that role forever. So maybe give a fixed term period, like, okay, our head of departments, this is a 2-year fixed term, and then after 2 years, everybody needs to reapply, and everybody has an equal opportunity to get to this role, depending on this is what we are expecting in that role. So just finding ways to really be equitable and finding ways to give everybody a chance. And maybe you have a colleague who this is their aspiration, they are not there yet, but with that conversations and that support, just working with them, if you want to go there, this is the steps that you need to go. All right. And then giving access to professional development. So when we look at our professional development, like, for example, it's not always equitable. So if I take the example of learning assistants, they don't always get the same level of professional development funds or access as teachers. And to me, that's a barrier. So that doesn't really give them that chance to access to the opportunities that they are aspiring. So coming up with something that is very systemic, coming up with concrete steps, talking with people and really finding out what they want and supporting them to get there and seeing it as a strength. So this is something that is helping the school. It's not something that is taking away from the school. As both Fatima and Walter mentioned, when changes happen, this is the group that is keeping the school alive. So just investing in this group and really upskilling everybody, to me, that is one sure way that we can support that local leadership pathway.
Fantastic. I'm going to move us along because I want to make sure we get to a bunch of these questions, and we're close to the top of the hour. Not really yet. We still have like 18 minutes, but I want to keep us going. So barriers. Fatma, what are some of the most common barriers that you see for host country and home country educators who are aspiring to move into leadership, and what has helped shift those barriers within your own context?
Kind of, it was mentioned many times. It's the pathways and the mentorship. You need to have both of these in place to really be able to support them. So that and of course the budget, the resources that you need. But in a sense also, as kind of more and more of your staff develop and has developed these advanced skills, we're able now to run our own. So our coaches that have now become really advanced in teaching certain things like concept-based inquiry, blended learning, we have a full year kind of a course outline. We also do the ISS passport that all our TAs they benefit from and they love. We have the online IB, we have the conferences ASA IB, so kind of having a clear, I know many schools, what they have is like per teacher, that's your budget, you decide what you want. But I honestly don't feel it gets us to maybe to a certain level when you get to the point where there's a certain basic kind of understanding of what needs to happen in teaching and learning in the classroom. You can dedicate a budget where teachers who want that innovative and research pathway where I want to, experience something new. But as long as there's a certain core understanding of how things need to be, it is so important for the school to have a clear plan. So what we do by March, we issue a whole year plan of all the PDs that we have. So for concept-based inquiry, there's then in-house PDs, there's these online PDs, there's for face-to-face conferences. So it's like a huge sheet we send to all the staff, which explains all the PDs that we have and how they link to our teaching and learning practices that we have and how we've defined them. Like we have Dr. Kathleen Tucker, we have, Anita Churchville for the gifted and talented. So we already have a list of all our consultants and all the organizations we work, the ISS. We have all of that and we just send it out to all the staff and say, you go in the form and you say what you want to do, and then we link it to, we have something called the PGP, the personal growth plan. So every staff also have their personal growth plan that they link all these professional learning kind of experiences to it. And they are able to, when they go into reflection with their supervisors, they're talking about how these professional learning experiences have affected their goals and how, they've improved. So I guess the barriers is when you don't have a clear system in place. You don't have the resources, you don't have the right people, the right funds. And so a big fight I always have with the board is like, you cannot touch my professional learning because that's, interestingly enough, the moment there's any crunch, the first thing that goes out is the professional learning budget. And for me, it's like the first thing that you're not going to touch because that's what I need to keep the level and quality of education that I want. So for me, it's a core. So there's always that conversation. Is it an operation cost? Is it a direct or indirect cost? I always say it's a direct cost because it directly affects the quality of education we give in the classroom. For many other schools, that's the first thing that goes out is the professional development, which for me is, I would leave out a lot of other stuff, but I won't touch that budget. So I guess it's back to the school to decide what kind of, what they're trying to do and how to put the systems and to support this development. So we've done pathways, we've done mentorship, we've done a clear professional development plan that is linked to the practices, teaching and learning practices we want to see, and our definition of learning. And we have a budget of more than $320,000 every year for that. So we cover master's program, some PhD programs, and so that budget is. And now what came from the teaching assistant that they want an exchange program budget. We've been hosting a lot of other schools. They want to go. So I just spoke to we're meeting tomorrow. So let's put a budget for exchange where they can actually travel to other schools. So getting constantly the feedback and being at different stages, I guess, it allows you to say, now I need to put this more, I need to improve the system more, but you need time for that.
Oh my gosh, I love that idea of an exchange. That's fantastic. The best learning I've ever had is sitting in other schools and other classrooms and learning from others. And it's just fantastic. Oh my gosh, so exciting. I'm going to move us quickly on to, okay, Walter. When we're talking about trust, how have you seen investing in local leadership pathways strengthen trust and continuity within your school community?
It is actually essential. When we were talking about, and Batman mentioned a lot about professional development and how that is considered a direct cost because it directly makes the impact into the learning. It also helps the organization. And when it was written before in sustainability, etc., uh, having investing in and expanding that expertise of our host country and our local community as well helps uh, tons to the school in terms of achieving the goals as institution. Uh, for example, we rely sometimes in terms of uh, having to outsource certain services like network infrastructure. But if you have the correct team and you have somebody within the team that can get those certifications, you can get a Cisco certification. You invest on that person who can get that expertise, and in the long term, it helps you when you are developing and where you're expanding your networking infrastructure. Instead of having to outsource this part and having a project manager, you have that expertise in house. So uh, directly investing in that professional expertise I know we're talking about educators. My vision is always behind the scenes, the operational side, and all the dynamics that happen within the same school as an organization. So there are many other ways in which you have to not only reduce the amount, as my fellow said, because you're a local hire, you have a certain amount of money, and then just sorry, you just can't have access to it. Instead of being more visionary and saying, what are the needs of the organization? How can we get this expertise and bring it to the school? And who is the capable person to get this expertise and then invest in it? It helps tons, and it really makes the difference within the community and as a school as an organization. Another one that I have seen is important is the promoting a career path. Uh, Somebody who's been a junior accountant promoted to a junior accountant and eventually to a business manager. That person has gone through a career and knows that has gone uh, to a certain level, and that hasn't been only earned because I don't know, because of it's a local quota that we need to fill. That person has shown loyalty, that person has shown commitment, and has shown that not only from the lower levels, but is able to provide the expertise and the support that the organization needs in certain levels. So uh, it's promoting those career paths that are available for anybody who's capable and wants to do it and is able to do it. Investing in that is another valuable and possible way improve the communities and help just being part of the inclusion.
Walter, thank you so much. I know we're coming up to the top of the hour, and I had promised that we would open things up to a Q&A. So I want to move us from, we still had a few other questions that we were going to address, but I think we should jump open to everyone in the room. Oh, nope, I don't want to say thank you yet. I want to open up to questions, a Q&A, so that you can ask folks here. And I'm going to stop sharing because we're all together in a community, and it's really nice to be able to see each other. But do we have any questions from the audience? If anyone in particular about any of our amazing leaders who are here, anything anyone want to say or ask either in the chat or come off mute? Oh, go ahead, Heather.
Hi, good afternoon, or wherever you are. My question is related to getting staff members who have been, like, in my school, we're actually mostly local staff, and it's getting them interested in becoming part of leadership that has been our struggle. Or, despite, I guess they've done, so this is my first year at this school, so I only know what I've been told. And I guess in the past they've done surveys, and we've tried to respond to the needs, the requests. But it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people who are really willing to move into a leadership position. And I'm not sure what the reluctance is. However, it's something that I would like to look at. Do you have any recommendations of what you've done to help local staff want to become part of leadership and take on more responsibility? Because it's just been a small struggle. There are some good, really, really good leaders here, but I would like to see them go a little higher.
All right, I can jump in first. So this is an observation I see in my context, and I can think of several factors that can create this type of dynamic. The first one is in international schools, sometimes there is worry about what parents think, and that worry can come from leadership as well as from colleagues themselves. I mean, I've heard leadership just saying, what will parents think? I mean, the parents are expecting a certain type of teacher and this person, or a certain type of leader, especially in leadership positions. And if this person accesses, how are parents going to perceive this person or our school? So that's something I think that the school needs to work on. And as Fatma said, if your school's mission is global citizenship or any of those words, then that's the message that really should be promoted. And then another thing that I think is a barrier as well. There are different types of leadership, and the way we express leadership has some cultural aspects to it. So just how do you connect culturally to people that are from a different cultural background? How does leadership look like in those cultural contexts? And how are we removing, for example, me in Cote d'Ivoire is a very high context culture, and hierarchy is a big part of it. So when the director comes and speaks, his word is the law. So people will hesitate to actually stand up and question what he's saying. So how do leaders come with a lens of cultural competency and really try to break those barriers and communicate with the local staff in a way that is culturally responsive and that brings them into that space to feel safe enough to really share and to feel like they're part of the vision of the school. So yeah.
Yeah, I would say remove the barriers, because first barrier that I've even speaking to my team here, they say, like, you encouraged us, you made us believe, you were okay with us making mistakes, you mentored us through the process, like understanding that getting into leadership is just not like I wake up the next day and I'm a coordinator, I'm a middle leader, or I'm a head of primary school. It needs preparation. So also kind of what has helped us is having these. So for leadership pathway, these are the 4 courses you have to do. leadership, team dynamics, leading the curriculum, leading assessments. So we've identified them with the PTC TLI, Teacher Leaders Institute, and the PTC that we've developed, and they come here to our school and we do the leadership. And why we do it here, for the PTC, we send our upper leadership to the PTC to interact with all the other schools' leaders and learn so much from there. But as we're there beginning the leadership journey, we've created the courses here as in-house, where it's a kind of safe environment for them to start, developing these skills, making their mistakes. And I always continuously tell my staff, if you're not doing mistakes, you're not learning. So also creating that psychological safety of making, because leadership is tough. You're going to make mistakes every day. And I constantly tell myself, I start with me. I've made thousands of mistakes. Every day I make a few mistakes. But as long as you haven't hurt a child, you haven't done something that is against our staff handbook, we're okay. We're gonna solve it together. There's these kind of red lines that I put, but I say the rest, we're gonna figure it out together. And even today, when I met them, I'm like, they're like, we're thinking of this, but we're worried. I'm like, all I could say is try it. You might find out like this is not for me, and there's always the opportunity to back up. Like, I tried this leadership, it's not for me. I backed up, but at least I've tried, and in 20 years I won't regret it. So I guess having these clear, don't shove somebody into leadership without the trainings that they need, without a clear kind of system that supports them and a mentorship system that supports them. So all of that, because it is sensitive, because they feel like in front of I have 90% Ghanaian teachers and more than 90% international students, by the way. So for them also in front of these international parents, they feel that kind of, it took me years to get them to feel confident about who they are and to believe in themselves and that they could stand and they should be respected by these parents, and they should not feel that they can shove them right and left. So this takes time. This takes building that culture and building the systems and the processes that will help them succeed versus if you don't have a system, you're just setting them up to fail. And you really don't want that because it's destructive, basically. So once you're ready, you have to make that system, make sure you're going to mentor them and be there standing next to them whenever they make these mistakes. In front of parents also. Be there to be that forefront, basically. You're not going to get them to face these parents alone. You're going to eat that for them.
This has been so wonderful and such an important conversation. And I feel as if we could be talking for hours and have so many people continue to ask you questions and learn from the three of you. But I want to hand things over to Jennifer. So everyone, please join me in thanking both my fellow and Fatima and Walter. And I want to hand things over to Jen. Jennifer, please bring us to a close.
Thank you so much, panelists and participants, for being here today, for being with us, because this is an important subject. And the major goal and the major thing that we should be thinking about more than anything else is inclusion. And when you talk about inclusion and some of the things that you've said today, valuing your experience, creating those pathways, driving the school culture, diversity and inclusion, and the challenges that we have, today, you have put them forth for us, and you have said to us exactly what we need to do. In making sure that we can transport humans from one place to another, we need to be able to steer them in the learning communities. And more than anything, we need for them to learn that host country and host nation leaders are possible, that it is a reality, that they are the backbone of your school. And to do this, I would suggest to you, from what we've seen and heard today, is that you share this presentation with them. Someone needs to share it with your board. Someone needs to share it with your parent organization. Someone needs to jump up and say, this is what needs to be done. And you have to be the people that do that. The misinformation, the unethical practices that happens because the person is from that host nation and that host country, and a person of color, mostly, are still very prevalent in the international school community. So I'm going to leave you with this. And for me, that's a fragrant as, that's like a compost heap, I don't like the smell of it. I don't like the sound of it. But I want you to look at what could be and not what is or what was. I need you to be inquisitive about this. I need you to be that person that steers the others. We have to look just beneath the surface of what it is that's causing them to really believe this. And it all goes back to biases. So I want you to be conscious. I want you to oppose those norms that are out there. And somebody has to boldly go out and start this change. And it started with you. And so once again, we have to reach back and bring somebody else with us. One of the quotes that I always use is from Christian Talbert, and he talks about wise change. And in order for us to make wise change, we have to be the difference in the organizations that we represent. Make the person that you know can be a leader desirable to your community. And there are so many ways to do that. Once again, we want to thank you. It's 2 minutes after the hour and we have kept you, but thank you again for joining the Diversity Collaborative. We want to thank Joel for putting all of this together, and Dana is a moderator for us today. And for you, our panelists, we adore you. Thank you so much. And for all of those who came in today to listen, thank you so very much. We'll see you again on May 8th, on May 5th. We look forward to you once again at the same time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Jennifer. Bye, Joel. Bye, Dana. And our panelists.
Bye bye.
Bye,
Thank you so
everyone.
much.
Thank you so much.